beginning of them when I still had my studio in Brooklyn, but I've been able to focus in a different way, and I feel more calm when I'm working somehow. You know, I mean, life is still just as wonderful and just as dreadful as it always was. So, you know, it's like, it's hard to say directly.
Yeah.
Laurie, what's your view on the boundaries or the issue of painting that you started out with when you and Tip first met compared to today?
Oh, I feel like I was just so narrow-minded and had to be, you know, I had to believe what was being presented to me. I had to follow certain things in order to rationalize what I was doing. I had to say that I was kind of repudiating the kind of what I saw as the male-dominated history of art, and that meant, you know, painting, sculpture, that photography was something so new that I could get on board and that I could have a voice, which turned out to be true for a number of women in my generation. But I think it's pretty funny the way you know, the strong views that I held about, negative views that I held about painting at the time.
But young people need to be strict. I mean, this maybe goes to Jennifer's question a little bit too. Like, younger people need to have strict and strong feelings about things. Things are much clearer to them.
Yeah.
And
There's not
I
so much
feel
doubt.
just completely no longer concerned with those kinds of things for myself. Like, really, I'll pretty much do whatever if it seems like a good idea.
So, Tip, when you talk about the male having always, you talk about him as in terms that you didn't have any control over him. He was making you do the painting, and you edged him out. I know in many paintings, although there was just a hat left and there was a little something left. How did you finally get rid of him? Was it the move to Connecticut?
Well, I don't know. I just think things evolve, you know? I mean, I couldn't really say, except that I just felt done at a certain point. And I did a group of paintings that had sort of notional ideas of landscape in them around this main character. So I'd been making little doodles of trees in drawings and in the corners of the paintings. And at a certain point, it just occurred to me, like, that could really be a vehicle, you know, like maybe I really could be done with it and there would be this other vehicle. And at the time, I certainly wasn't thinking about it going from a more male-driven thing to a female-driven thing. I was just thinking about the next thing. And it was the first time that something plausible had occurred to me that wasn't that in quite a while. And it was a relief to feel like I could move on.
It was a beautiful quantum leap.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. Is there a question?
Yeah, hi.
Hi.
Laurie, can you talk a little bit about your process in working in terms of how thought out your subject matter is? I mean, a lot of meaning gets put on your work, and I'm just wondering how much of that is sort of by the critics after the fact, or, you know, in your intent while coming up with your ideas.
Well, what people write about never corresponds to my intent, though I'm always interested and fascinated to see what's written about. And I generally, you know, one difference in the way we work is that I feel like Tip has the soul of a surrealist, that he goes into the studio and it's like this is my perception, my probably over-romanticized perception, but the way he speaks about it, his work, is that he is being led places and things emerge and things happen that are outside of his control. By contrast, I am very, very, very much in control, in the sense that it takes me a while to think about, you know, there's not the same kind of experimentation. I can't go in and draw and see things emerge. It takes a lot to set up a new series because I have to figure out what I'm going to do, get the prop, set it up, do the lighting. So the whole approach is really different, and there are longer periods of time between my series for me to kind of, you know, regenerate a little bit and work again. So I think my process, except when I'm actually shooting, and that's when, for me, the magic happens, what I see, things change. But I think my process is very much more controlled than one might imagine seeing the work, because there are so many elements in it. And in terms of my intention, unless I put it out there or have an opportunity to do an interview, my intention doesn't matter at all, because what people see and what people get from my work seems to be so different. I mean, I've sort of, in some sense, given up trying to put so much meaning on what I do, because I feel like in the end I'm really an intuitive artist. Like, the way that I get to things is by my intuition rather than by some political or psychological motive.